Audrey, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so this Jay Jones text thread about him going after Speaker Todd Gilbert and then wishing ill will on his family, that has changed the entire trajectory of the race in Virginia. How did it happen?
How did the story happen, or how did the scandal?
Oh, yeah, the story.
So I'd heard this percolating for several months. It's so funny. People keep calling my story an opposition research dump, but let me tell you, it took a lot of effort to get this one. I'd heard rumors about this for a while, didn't actually get the goods until the week I reported this story. But look, what I think is most surprising about this story is the context. So he was texting these extremely disturbing things, fantasizing about murdering a former Republican political adversary. The context of that discussion was his frustration with Republican state legislators in Virginia, how they were eulogizing a recently deceased moderate Democrat. So these aren't drunk texts for this guy, by the way. He's texting these extremely disturbing things at 8 a.m.
But he's also texting him to a legislature, Carrie Conoyer, who is a Republican delegate. Did he know her? Was he serving with her? Were they buddies?
So at the time, Jay Jones, this conversation happened on August 8th, 2022. Jay Jones had resigned from the state legislature the prior year in 2021. So he texted her by accident at the beginning of the text thread. He said that he meant to send it to somebody else named Mark, unclear who Mark was. But then he kept doubling down and quadrupling down to the point where he called this woman, his former Republican colleague, and doubled down and suggested that the only way for then Republican Speaker Todd Gilbert to change his views, his political views with respect to gun violence, is if his wife saw his child die in her own arms. So these are extremely disturbing things. And, Virginia Democrats thus far, I mean, we haven't seen any nationwide or high profile Democrats in Virginia calling on him to step down. And as you know, the timing is tricky for them, right? I mean, by the time my story broke, hundreds of thousands of Virginians had already cast their ballots. We're just a few weeks out from Election Day, so they don't really have a backup strategy here.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this conversation, but if you're looking for a way to get to sleep tonight and stay asleep, I've got the answer for you. For over a year, I've been taking Beam's Dream Powder. It has made a world of difference. I fall asleep faster, I stay asleep, and I wake up ready to go. If you want to join me by taking one scoop every night before you get to bed, go to shopbeam.com/Spicer. Use code word Spicer at checkout for up to 40% off. Trust me, everything stems from a great night's sleep. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. All right, back to the conversation. And don't fall asleep yet. So here's the question, and I want to be careful because I know you guys like to protect your sources, but it seems to me that if Jay Jones is texting this Republican delegate, that either she has to give those texts to you or she shared them with somebody else and they gave them to you. Does she admit that she gave them out now?
So as she said in a statement, following or for my story, I did not get these from her or anybody actually named in my story. She acknowledged in her statement to me and other outlets that at the time she received those texts that day, she sent them to Todd Gilbert because he was obviously the person being targeted in the text. He actually didn't send those to me either. So with a lot of these things, texting conversations, a reminder to all politicians, things have a way of, once they're sent to somebody else, they get spread elsewhere. Right. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, you mentioned something that's interesting and fascinating. Jay Jones was in the House of Delegates in Virginia and randomly resigned one day. To this day, apparently, there's a lot of mystery surrounding why he resigned. Have you been able to get into that at all?
Look, I may or may not be reporting a story on this, but there are tons of rumors swirling around. That question has not been fully adjudicated, but at the time, he said he wanted to focus on his family. That kind of seems to be the case. The exact kind of details remain unclear. But look, a lot of other things about this guy before my story broke were pretty controversial. During his time in the House of Delegates, he had a legislative record, a very progressive legislative record that a lot of Republicans pan as soft on crime. And then, of course, actually the same week that my story broke, that reckless driving conviction from a few years ago was reported in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. They had a great piece about how a few years ago he was convicted for driving 116 miles per hour on an interstate in Virginia, New Kent County, 46 miles above the speed limit. His punishment was a $1,500 fine and 1,000 hours of community service, 500 of which were served for his own PAC. So with a few weeks to go until Election Day, the new Commonwealth attorney for New Kent is actually investigating the matter. So my sources tell me that the things to look out are, maybe there is nothing fishy here, but the prosecutor is going to be looking into, at the time, did Jay Jones disclose his connections to that PAC? And did he actually serve those 500 hours? 500 hours is that's a lot of time, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, you think about a 40-hour work week, right? So that's, 15 weeks, and you're doing it to your own political action committee, which I don't know how any court would have approved.
Right. So there's going to be a lot of investigation into that matter. Republicans, of course, are going to be highlighting any headlines related to that investigation. And again, whether he actually served those hours, whether the executive director of the PAC was aware of those connections, whether any documents were forged. Again, he could have been completely legally compliant with all of this, but my sources tell me that it's totally worth investigating. And again, Republicans are counting their lucky stars that it's more than just a texting scandal, which was already bad enough for this guy.
Yeah, I gotta believe though. I mean, the funny thing is, I would just drive the texting issue all day long, every day, because I get the other one is kind of shady, but I think a lot of people believe that politicians are shady anyway. But the idea that somehow somebody was okay with the idea of serving community service at your own, like the political action committee, that's not that's a political venture. That's fine. That's great. But it's clearly not serving the greater good of the community, which I think is what community service is all about. So I don't know how he ever got away with that. The other issue, apparently, though, that's come out is some conversations that he is alleged to have where he says that police must die before they address qualified immunity.
Yes. So that was Brandon Jarvis with the Virginia Scope. He had a great piece. So he quoted Carrie Coyner, who was the same woman who was on the texting thread in my story. So he reached out to her, and she says that he said that he denies that. He said that the quote about wanting police officers to die. But, Republicans are obviously, again, having a field day with this story. Look, he is really under fire here. Democrats, again, it's stunning that I believe one state legislative candidate said that he should withdraw. I interviewed Denver Riggleman last week, the anti-Trump, pro-Spanberger former congressman for Virginia who worked on the January 6th House Select Committee. A friend of Democrats these days, not a friend of Republicans. He told me he's voting for Jason Miyares. But beyond that, we're not seeing a big swell of Virginia Democrats calling on the guy to withdraw. Again, they're in a really tough spot here. It's going to be really tricky for Winsome Sears to overcome Spanberger's polling lead at the top of the ticket. This texting scandal, Republicans are optimistic that this will close the gap a little bit. But Jason Miyares, Republicans are feeling very confident about his chances now.
Oh, yeah. If you look at the latest Trafalgar polling, Jason's well outside the margin of error. But I think, look, I've said this all along, Audrey, that you want to be riding the tide into the beach, not trying to hold it back. And right now, that's where Winsome is. And she's 2 points down in Trafalgar, but the bigger point is she was down 5-6 before. You're moving in the right direction. The other thing that I thought was fascinating about Jay Jones's initial response to your piece was he said that it was a Jason Miyares, what did he say? Opposition research dump to a MAGA-friendly Oppo outlet.
Oh, no. Trump controlled National Review. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys get a kick of that? I just thought to myself, that's pretty pathetic. You're basically blaming your own text on somebody else.
Oh, yeah. We got a kick out of it. I'm sure you personally got a kick out of it. The president to call us Trump controlled. Peruse our website for 30 seconds and you'll realize very quickly that is not the case. What also stood out to me in that initial statement is he said, I'm paraphrasing here, like everybody else, I send texts that I regret, we all have done this, blah, blah, blah. he didn't include in his initial statement the words, "I'm sorry, Todd Gilbert," like a sincere apology until about I believe like 11 hours actually after I initially came to him for comment. Um, but look, Democrats were really appalled and frustrated and disappointed with this news and also with how he responded. So I wrote a piece, actually, a follow-up piece last week about how, his initial assessment, his team, was that because it's run a conservative outlet, that it wouldn't gain steam in the mainstream, among mainstream reporters. That quickly obviously ended up not being the case. Hence, this, as it cascaded throughout the day, he had to issue a kind of a mea culpa, sincere apology. But look, Democratic fundraisers, donors are extremely frustrated. They bet on this guy, not just for this particular race, but look, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner, the two senators for Virginia, they're still pretty sharp guys, but they're getting older. And, Democrats want to invest in somebody who can serve for a long time in Virginia politics. So they saw him as a long-term investment, but also a lot of these donors and fundraisers, they're embarrassed. Their friends are texting them, "Did you know about this guy? Like, did you know this kind of stuff would come out?" And so they're having to backtrack a little bit. So yeah, again, it's complete disaster for Democrats. The cleanup has been fascinating, but another quick thing is the Jones campaign and other high-profile Democrats who are trying to do damage control behind the scenes are telling any Democratic operatives to deflect from this story by turning it on Trump and saying, well, Virginia Republicans didn't call on Trump to resign the day after he issued the January 6th pardons. I'm serious. That's exactly what they're being told. And I have Democratic, mainstream hardcore Democrats telling me, Audrey, when I heard this, I'm like, oh, give me a break. Come on. I'm not going to compare this to Trump. We got to acknowledge that this is bad and find another way to deflect it.
Yeah, this is a textbook disaster, PR-wise, for Jay Jones, how he handled it, how he tried to deflect. Audrey Fahlberg, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on breaking this critical story, because I do believe that story is going to be I keep calling it the Terry McAuliffe moment from 2019. This is the moment that things are going to shift. So congratulations on being part of such a historic place in the political narrative, and all great work at National Review. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.